Hey Northside, this is Jamie, one of the pastors on staff. I just wanted to take a moment to apologize. Last night we tried to do an online service, and right before we went on, the power at our office complex went out, and so did our internet. And we were able to get some things back, but it just resulted in a really bad quality video. In fact, it was unwatchable. We're not going to have a morning service next Sunday online because we are meeting in person. Don't forget, July 4th, we're planning on meeting at 10 a.m. at Oak Grove Elementary, and that way we can go out and celebrate the 4th of July with friends and family and still, attend church. And so July 4th, 10 a.m., Oak Grove Elementary. It'll be outdoors, so bring a lawn chair. It's going to be great, so I hope to see you there this coming Sunday. I also wanted to let you know that July 10th, put it on your calendar, we are doing an outdoor movie night at Oak Grove Elementary. And so we have a 30-foot screen, and it's going to be great. So we're going to be watching The Incredibles 2, and so invite your friends. It'll probably be out in the grass behind Oak Grove Elementary. We can't start it until it's dusk, and so it might be, a fairly late night, so give your kids a nap and stuff like that. But July 10th, make sure that's on your calendar. July 24th also is our first annual invitational golf tournament. And so it's just for fun. And so if you've never golfed before, or if you're super good at golf, there's room for everyone. I promise you, you're not worse than I am. And so we hope that you'll join us July 24th for our first golf tournament. And if you want information or you want to sign up, we actually do need to know sooner than later, just because we have to organize tee times. And there's a meal included. It's $25 if you don't want a cart, $35 if you do want a cart, and it includes a meal. Anyway, we would love to see you and spend that day with you. That's July 24th. And then another date I just want to throw out there for you to put on your calendar to make sure that you are aware is August 28th. We are having a luau. And so it's going to be one of those, things that we do toward moving toward relaunch. And so it's going to be like the last main thing that we do in terms of inviting people back to Northside as we really relaunch right here in North Albany. So August 28th, make sure that's on your calendar as well. And with that, I want to go ahead and preach the sermon that I preached last night and post it here just because we are starting a brand new sermon series on the book of Proverbs. And I really thought that, not having this introduction might not be great. And I wanted to give you the opportunity to watch that. So sorry again that it didn't work out, but here's the second best thing that I could do in re-recording it for you. And I hope it comes out okay. So, for those of you guys who don't know, I spent the last 12 days, I wasn't the last 12 days, but minus about the week and a half I've been back. 12 days before that, a bunch of friends and I went to Moab, Utah to ride motorcycles, and then we actually rode the Trans-American Trail on the way back. And so we had this incredible trip. It was over 2,000 miles at our highest elevation. We were just under 11,000 feet. Like 80% of it was off-road. It was incredible. There was no laptop. We hardly ever had cell service. It was an incredible trip. It was probably, this sounds kind of lame, but it was probably like one of the most physically demanding things I've ever done. It was way more difficult than anything else that I've ever done. But one of the things that I would tell you, it's like, like riding off-road, living off the back of your motorcycle. My hands from 2,000 miles off-road, they're still tingling. They're better now than they were like even a week ago, but man, they're still tingling. But the truth is, man, I would do it again. I would do it again in a heartbeat, not today or not, maybe not even this summer, but like next summer for sure. I hope to be able to take an extended trip like that. It's just so refreshing, an incredible time to reflect and to think, and so admire. I just, really love that trip. But one of the things that, really stuck out to me as we went through Moab and Idaho and Nevada and Oregon, one of the things that just really stuck out to me was the beauty of the world that we live in. Just absolutely beautiful things that we got to see. Like Moab, which is this place that's known for incredible heat. One of the things that we did as we left Moab is we drove through one of the canyons that made Moab famous. And, just to see the way that the wind and everything else kind of formed the rocks is just something I've never seen before. So incredible. And, we saw these old pictographs, they're just so powerful and so incredible to see things that were, carved or painted on the rocks hundreds of years ago. And this is such a neat thing. And then, you go up to the highest mountains where we got stopped by an 8-foot glacier. We could see the other side of the trail, but there was like an 8-foot wall of ice that we couldn't go through. It's so infuriating because we had to go all the way back around. We basically lost a day and all that, I think. But it just got me to thinking, what an amazingly beautiful place we live. And I'll be honest, the most beautiful place in all of that is Oregon. I mean, we just live in one of the most beautiful places that there is. And it just reminded me, like, just that the beauty of the creation. I'm just overwhelmed at the beauty of the world that we live in. It got me to thinking, like the greatest of human minds, and my daughter is really, really creative. But even the greatest creativity, the greatest creative minds, all of humanity and what they can think up and kind of what they can produce or what they can invent, at their very best, those are things that are inspired by God, but at the same time could never compare with the reality of what He's made. The creativity of God is unmatched. And even going a little further, this is one of the greatest truths that you'll ever hear or hopefully ever come to know about the reality of who you are. And that is that even in your creativity, the way that you are able to be creative, you are realizing one of the greatest truths about you that you'll ever know, which is that you are made in the very image of God, that your creativity actually screams toward the image of God, the reality of the image of God in you, and that is just such a powerful truth. And today, like I mentioned, we're starting a brand new series on the book of Proverbs. It's been one that I've been looking forward to for a while. A proverb basically is like these little, often short, but powerful statements that have this sort of surprisingly witty, essence to them, and they're amazingly applicable. It's one of the things that I love about them is they just have this amazing applicational sort of a point to them. And one of the major themes it is the major theme actually, when you look at the book of Proverbs, you really can boil it down to one word, and it is the word wisdom. And it's a pretty cool thing to trace, the history of the proverb wisdom. I mean, ultimately, it goes all the way back to God Himself. But just preceding some of this stuff, what we realize is that the story of the wisdom of Proverbs, it's legit. It's really, really cool. And King Solomon, who was the son of King David, he often gets credit for the book of Proverbs, and rightfully so. There are some scholars that I found that believe that he wrote all of the Proverbs, but if you read the book of Proverbs, it seems to suggest that there might be some other authors that are in there as well. And many people actually believe that these other authors are people that Solomon probably kind of rolled with and respected, and like this was kind of like his cohort, these groups of people that kind of shared their wisdom with each other to sharpen each other, and Solomon sort of collected these things and kind of conserved these things, brought them together, and we call them the book of Proverbs. It's pretty astounding stuff, because as King David was dying, it says that he called out for his son. He sent for his son, and his son came to him. And you can read about this in 1 Kings chapter 2. David gave Solomon this charge, sort of like these marching orders. And basically what Solomon said was, or what David said to Solomon was, I'm dying. My time on earth is coming to an end, but I need you to take courage. He actually says, be a man, Solomon. Follow my example in following hard after God and obeying God. And one of the things as I was reading in 1 Kings chapter 2 that just really spoke to me was this idea of, like dads, parents, grandparents. If you want to leave a charge for your kids, if you want to leave a legacy that's worth following, if you want to leave a legacy that matters, lead them something to lead them to something that will be a dependable foundation for life, that will anchor their hearts and their minds, that will teach them the greater and deeper ways, that the deeper truth as they walk through life, as to what real love is, real humility is, real grace is, what real mercy is, what honest to God truth is. If you want to lead your kids into that kind of a legacy, or your grandkids into that kind of a legacy, then show them the way, point the way, model the way to Jesus, and you will never regret it. David tells his son that the real life and the real freedom that God desires for him, and for you, and for me, is found there. And it's interesting because as you read 1 Kings chapter 2 and then on into 1 Kings chapter 3, what you realize is what it says is that in large part, that Solomon took this charge, his dad's charge, seriously. I'm sure it wasn't perfect, but largely, he did love the Lord, and he did follow the Lord, and he did obey the Lord, at least early on. And it says that the Lord came to him one night in a dream, and the feel of the passage is that God was pleased with him and basically said, you know what, Solomon, ask for anything that you want and I'll give it to you. And I don't know if you can put yourself in that position. If God came to you in a dream and said, ask for one thing, anything, and that he would give it to you, what would you ask for? I mean, maybe hair, health, long life, money, fame, influence. World peace? Like what would you ask for? And honestly, as I've looked at the life of Solomon, and you could really say that this was his finest hour, his greatest moment, like just this incredible, the pinnacle moment of Solomon's life. If you listen to the way that Solomon responded to that statement from God in the midst of the dream, this is what he said. You can actually read this in 1 Kings chapter 3, verses 7 through 10. This is how Solomon responded to God. He said, "Now, O Lord and my God, you have made me king instead of my father David." He says, "But I am like a little child who does not know his way around. And here I am in the midst of your own chosen people, a nation that is too numerous and great, and they can't be counted. And so God, give me an understanding heart that I can govern your people well and know the difference between what's right and what's wrong. For who by himself, O Lord, is able to govern this great people of yours?" And verse 10 says that the Lord was pleased that Solomon had asked for wisdom. And it was given to him. It was given to him. Solomon became the wisest person to ever live. And people literally in that day would travel from all around the world to sit at the feet of Solomon and to sort of listen to the wisdom that spewed out of his mouth. And it wasn't money or power or women or better looks or health or stuff. Anything to do with COVID. Solomon's reply, it came from this deep place of incredible humility. When he uses phraseology like this, when he says, "Who am I, O Lord, to lead your people?" He says he's like a child that doesn't know what he's doing. That he certainly can't do it without the Lord. And that he can't, that he doesn't in his own. He understands that he doesn't have what it takes to lead God's own chosen people. And as I was getting ready for this, the natural question that came from that is, anyone else feel like that? That you don't have what it takes? We don't have the weight of a nation, of the nation of God's own chosen people. We don't have that on our shoulders per se, but if I were to be honest, that's still how I feel in those moments in life when I'm thinking the clearest, and I'm sure I'm not the only one, but God does give me these moments where I just feel like things are clear, like there's just more clarity in my mind than other times. And in those moments of great clarity, I really do feel like those are the moments that I realize that I don't have what it takes. For instance, that being a pastor is far beyond my own ability. And that I need God. And the truth is, whether I was a pastor or really honestly any other thing, it's true. I don't have what it takes to be a godly husband. I don't have what it takes to raise godly kids. I don't have what it takes to be the one that encourages my neighbors. I don't have, the truth is we all need God. Solomon asked for wisdom, real wisdom, and not some kind of man-made approach to wisdom or some kind of a false wisdom, not wisdom to win over the voters, even though that's not how it worked back then, but real wisdom to know where real wisdom came from. And then the courage to apply it or to walk in it in his life. And Solomon, he could have asked for anything, but that's what he wanted. And it's crazy to me because as you read the book of Proverbs, the result and the desire, Solomon's desire for godly wisdom, so much of what we read in Proverbs, that's what it is the wisdom that God provided, the wisdom that can make its way to and through the lives of others, that lasts longer than any other thing that you'll leave on earth. When you leave godly wisdom, when you leave that legacy, it will be around way longer than you will. That hunger for wisdom, the acknowledgement of our need for godly wisdom, if I were to be totally honest, it's just something I don't think we see a lot of anymore in the world that we live in. And so it got me looking at my own life and asking the question, when it comes for the desire for godly wisdom and when it comes to the desire to apply that, courageously apply that to my life, really, where am I at? Do I honestly seek godly wisdom in my life? Do I honestly look to courageously apply it in my life? Do I believe that it's worth pursuing in the first place? And to be honest, I think that might be a really, healthy couple of things for you to wrestle with too. Do you desire godly wisdom? Do you think it's worth pursuing in the first place? Have you asked for it? Have you asked for the courage to apply it in your daily life? And I would encourage you not to take the easy way out and to pretend like you didn't hear that question, but take the time to honestly answer it. Do you desire godly wisdom? More than a new truck, more than a boat, more than a new motorcycle, more than money, more than a new job, more than a new house, more than you wish you never had to wear a mask again. Do you honestly desire godly wisdom? Because the truth is, like, godly wisdom applied well in our life, it's one of those things that adds health and life and purpose and direction to every other aspect or every other situation in our life. It adds like a dimension of understanding and the way that we respond and how we reply to things in our life as we face those things. It informs marriage and how we raise our kids and work and struggles and failures and even, how we handle those things in life when everything goes well. Godly wisdom is one of those things that will impact every area of our life and bring us to this place of deeper fullness and greater freedom from those things that would rob us of what it is that God desires for you. And have you come to the place where you, with open hands and open hearts, realize that all of this, that this life that we're living, that it's bigger than we are, and that we were never intended to kind of wade through it outside of a relationship with the one who created it all? When it comes to discerning what godly wisdom is and seeking it, investing in it, and praying for it, where are you at? Solomon says, if you read the book of Proverbs, these are just a handful of what Solomon said, a handful of things that he says come with godly wisdom in your life. He says that it brings life and freedom and health and healing and direction and peace. He says that it honors your parents. And as a parent, I want you to know that is absolutely true, that it leads to good and beautiful things in your life. And that's not an exhaustive list. That's just a handful of things that Solomon says comes along with godly wisdom in our life. And there is this great truth that I really want you to know, and that's this, that there is a wisdom that comes from above that cannot be duplicated or taught by the invention of man. And just like there is no beating the creativity of God, there is no beating the wisdom of God. There is a wisdom that comes from above that cannot be duplicated or taught by the invention of man or by the thinking of man. Do you believe that? I mean, there are all kinds of things that are out there, these ideologies that are dressed up like wisdom that are completely and totally empty and bankrupt. They're everywhere in our culture, things that sound loving, but the truth is they're robbing people of what real love is supposed to be, leaving them broken and in captivity. They sound wise, but that lead to loneliness. They speak of value, but the reality of it is that there really is no value in them at all. And it reminds me so much of what Solomon said in Proverbs 14:12, where he said that there is a way that sounds right, that appears to be right to mankind, but at the end it leads to death. There is a way that appears to be right, but in the end it leads to death. There is a way that appears to be loving. There is a way that appears to be wise, but in the end, it leads to death. That there is a way that almost sounds right, that seems to resonate in our heart as right, but in the end leads to death. Do you long for real loving, real life-giving, freedom-finding wisdom? If so, pray about it. Ask for it. Take it to Him continually. Ask that God would give you a hunger for it, and ask for the courage to apply it to your life every day. And know for certain that it's what God desires for you. That godly wisdom is what God desires for you. And it is a legacy that you will never regret leaving your kids, or your grandkids, or your friends, right? The truth is, when it comes to be my time to go, it is one of the things that I hope that my family can honestly say about me and the legacy that I leave. I absolutely love how the book of Proverbs starts, and so if you were to take a look at the first 7 verses of the book of Proverbs, this is actually what it says. I'll read it for you. It says that these are Proverbs of Solomon, David's son, the king of Israel. It says that their purpose is to teach people wisdom and discipline, to help them understand the insights of the wise. Their purpose is to teach people to live disciplined and successful lives, to help them do what is right and just and fair. These proverbs will help give insight to the simple, just like me, knowledge and discernment to the young. Let wise people listen to the proverbs and become even wiser. Let those with understanding receive guidance by exploring the meaning in these proverbs and parables. The words of the wise and their riddles. And then verse 7 it says this, that the fear of the Lord is the foundation of true knowledge, but fools despise wisdom and discipline. That fools despise wisdom and discipline. And I spent a long time in ministry at this point, and I'll tell you, I have really absolutely 100% found that to be true. It's cool. I mean, those first 7 verses, in a kind of a vague way, sort of provide an outline in a way for the entire book of Proverbs. You know, if we desire wisdom, if we want to understand why discipline matters, if you want to know why we should desire wisdom, if you want to know what's right and just and true and fair, if you want greater discernment, greater knowledge, a grounded understanding, if you want to know what the difference is between foolish living and wise living, then the book of Proverbs is for you. There is a wisdom that comes from above that is greater than the invention of any man. And I don't live it out perfectly in my life. I want you to know that. Like, godly wisdom is just, I don't have that market cornered. I don't live it out perfectly in my life. But I do want you to know that I totally believe in it. And I want you to know that I do believe that God has been gracious. And I would honestly tell you that even though I haven't lived it out perfectly, I have seen it. And it's 100% true. There is such a thing as godly wisdom that can help you navigate life and everything else that comes with it. And I hope that sounds good to you, because that's where this sermon series is headed. As we look at Proverbs, we're going to be tackling things like why discipline matters and why we really need to pay attention to those kinds of things. And what is fear of the Lord? Where does it come from? And why is that something that we should, actually really kind of relish in our life? And things just like that. And so if you read along, you can go to our website, which is www.northside-albany.com. There's a section of daily reading. So every week we provide daily reading. And so actually starting today, Monday, if you were to go there, what you'll see is that we have kind of broken it up. And so that if you follow along with us in that, you will actually, by the time we're done with this series in early August, you will have read the entire book of Proverbs. And again, I think you'll really enjoy it. For a lot of people, Proverbs is really one of their favorite books of the Bible because it's just so applicable. It's easy to kind of understand what a pathway forward looks like when you read Proverbs. So I hope that you'll join us. Again, don't forget, we're meeting next week, July 4th, 10 a.m. at Oak Grove Elementary, probably out back is what it's looking like right now. Bring a lawn chair, bring some water if you want, but it's going to be great. And that way in the evening, July 4th, you can go out and be with friends and family. Hey, thanks for joining me. I hope you have a good rest of your evening. Let us know how we can pray for you. You can fill out a connection card at our website as well, just so that we know how we can be praying for you. If you have any questions about Northside, that's a great way to get those to us as well. So have a great rest of your day, and we will see you soon.